The council station hung silently in the void of space, a massive structure of metal and light, orbiting a star that was older than most civilizations. Its towers gleamed in the distant sun, reflecting the colors of nearby nebulae. Inside, representatives from dozens of advanced alien species moved through halls lined with translucent walls, their eyes glowing faintly in reflection of the energy fields that powered the station. They were the observers of the galaxy, a council created long ago to ensure that civilizations grew in ways that would not threaten the universe's fragile balance. On this particular day, the council gathered to discuss a species that had recently emerged onto the interstellar stage: humans. The representatives had been monitoring Earth for decades, fascinated by the unique traits of this small, blue world. The humans were unlike any other species the Council had encountered. They were neither the fastest, nor the strongest, nor the most intelligent in raw terms, but they possessed a strange resilience and a cooperative spirit that intrigued even the oldest members of the Council. "Observe their latest interactions with the neighboring systems," said Velnar, a tall, shimmering being with tentacle-like appendages. His voice, though melodious, carried a tone of concern. "They maintain politeness even under stress. Their ability to negotiate without violence is rare. It may serve as a model for interstellar diplomacy." Others nodded. On the Council, politeness, patience, and mutual respect were highly valued, and most species lacked even a fraction of what humans displayed. Early reports from the observation team had documented humans sharing resources with strangers, forming alliances with distant species, and resolving conflicts with words rather than weapons. Even when their technology lagged behind in some areas, their social cohesion allowed them to thrive. The Council had therefore decided to send a team of live observers to Earth. These observers would blend into human society, recording interactions without interference. They were curious to see if humans' politeness was merely a superficial trait, or if it reflected a deeper, enduring strength. The team arrived on Earth quietly, disguised as travelers from other human nations. They marveled at the cities, the forests, the oceans, and the people bustling through streets filled with cars, bicycles, and pedestrians. Humans greeted one another with smiles and polite gestures, even in the busiest cities. Strangers would hold doors, offer directions, or assist someone carrying heavy loads. These small actions fascinated the observers. One observer, a being named Xylan, often reported on the subtle ways humans interacted. "Notice," Xylan said one evening, standing on a crowded street, "that even in disagreement, they often maintain courtesy. Their tone may rise, but rarely do they insult. They listen to one another before making decisions. This is remarkable for a species so young in interstellar terms." Another observer, Miri, recorded patterns of cooperation. She watched a group of humans in a park helping each other set up a public event. Children worked alongside adults, sharing ideas, while strangers offered assistance without expecting reward. "Their willingness to work together," Miri noted, "is innate. It seems to be in their nature, not merely a learned behavior." The council members were impressed. Some even wondered if humans might become the first species capable of fostering interstellar peace without force. Their societies were far from perfect, of course. Conflicts arose over resources, power, and ideology, but even then, humans seemed to value dialogue, compromise, and fairness. Yet, as the observers continued their work, subtle hints of tension appeared. In some cities, Xylan noticed people moving more quickly, voices becoming sharper in crowded areas, impatience growing in public spaces. Miri recorded debates in government chambers where human representatives raised their voices more than usual. These were minor disturbances, hardly alarming, but they intrigued the observers. Could politeness wane as humans grew more ambitious? On one particular day, the council received reports of a small but notable incident. A human delegation visiting a neighboring star system interrupted a formal diplomatic session. They raised their voices, spoke out of turn, and insisted on immediate answers to their questions. The aliens hosting them were taken aback, yet the humans maintained a strange respect. They did not insult or attack. They only pressed firmly for their needs. "This is unusual," Velnar commented. "Their politeness seems to have limits. They are assertive when necessary, but still avoid hostility. It is as if their social codes adapt according to circumstances." The council decided to continue observing, intrigued by the adaptability of humanity. They were curious to see how humans would balance ambition with cooperation, assertiveness with courtesy. The team on Earth continued its work, blending into neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, and public spaces. They recorded instances of kindness alongside moments of tension, finding that humans were rarely predictable. One observer followed a human scientist named Dr. Ilara Vance, a leader in interstellar communications research. Ilara spent her days negotiating with colleagues from other nations, her evenings mentoring students from around the world. She often worked late into the night, sometimes frustrated with bureaucracy or equipment failures, but she never lost patience with her team. "She embodies the best of human cooperation," Miri reported. "Even under stress, she remains polite, encouraging, and focused on solutions. She inspires others without coercion." Meanwhile, Xylan observed humans in public life. Teachers, shopkeepers, engineers, parents. Even in the smallest communities, humans displayed patterns of mutual respect. They helped the elderly cross streets, guided the young in learning, and celebrated each other's successes. Small gestures, smiles, handshakes, shared food were commonplace. The observers noted that these behaviors were consistent across cultures and geography. However, the observers also noticed something else. Humans were capable of sudden shifts in emotion. Crowds could become impatient, leaders could speak harshly when frustrated, and social tensions could escalate unexpectedly. These moments were rare, but they hinted at a complexity the council had not anticipated. Back on the council station, discussions grew more animated. "Humans are fascinating," said Lauren, a species with crystalline limbs that refracted light. "They are polite, yet assertive, cooperative, yet ambitious. They are unpredictable and yet consistent in their values. How should we classify them?" Velnar considered this carefully. "They are young," he replied. "Their species is growing fast. Their technology will advance, and their ambitions will expand beyond Earth. We must observe how their society evolves. Politeness may fade under pressure, but perhaps they will develop new ways to maintain cooperation even in challenge. That is the true test of a civilization." Meanwhile, on Earth, small signs of strain were emerging. Cities faced challenges of overcrowding, limited resources, and political disagreements. Humans debated passionately, sometimes rudely, over issues like energy use, environmental preservation, and global governance. Yet even in these moments, acts of kindness and fairness persisted. Strangers helped neighbors affected by natural disasters. Communities organized to share resources with those in need. Despite the challenges, humanity found ways to support one another. The observers recorded all of this meticulously. They knew that humans were entering a critical phase, one where their politeness might be tested. Would they hold fast to their cooperative ways, or would ambition and stress erode their social fabric? In one city, a teacher named Mara led a group of children in a science project. The children argued over who would lead, who would present, and who would decide on the experiments. Mara listened patiently, guiding them to compromise and encouraging each to contribute. The children learned not just science, but also negotiation, empathy, and respect. Xylan recorded, "Even the young are learning cooperation. Their education focuses on collaboration as much as knowledge. This is rare and promising." Miri observed in another city how workers in a crowded hospital remained calm under pressure. Even when emergencies arose, they communicated clearly, shared tasks, and supported one another. They are resilient, Miri noted. They adapt to stress without losing their humanity. This is a strength the Council should not overlook. As months passed, the observers continued their work. They visited rural villages, industrial centers, and high-tech research labs. Everywhere, they saw humans cooperating, solving problems creatively, and expressing concern for one another. They also recorded the occasional impatience, frustration, and conflict, but these were often followed by reconciliation, apology, or compromise. Back on the Council station, debates continued. "Humans are remarkable," said Lauren. "Their politeness is not just behavior, it is a reflection of their inner values. Yet they are not perfect. We must study them carefully to understand the balance between ambition and courtesy." Velnar nodded. "Indeed, we must watch closely. Humanity is young, but their potential is enormous. If they maintain even part of their cooperative spirit as they grow, they may become a beacon of hope for interstellar relations." And so, the observers remained on Earth, blending into human society, recording data, and marveling at the small, polite gestures that defined everyday life. They saw humans helping neighbors, assisting strangers, negotiating peacefully, and striving to improve their world. They also saw humans face challenges with courage, creativity, and determination. The Council's reports painted a picture of a species full of promise. They were polite, yes, but also strong, resilient, and adaptable. The Council members understood that politeness alone did not define humanity. It was their ability to balance ambition with cooperation, assertiveness with empathy, that made them extraordinary. Yet the observers could not ignore the subtle signs of strain. Crowds growing impatient, leaders speaking sharply, and social tensions rising all hinted that the human's polite nature might face challenges. The Council could only watch and record, knowing that the true test of humanity's character had yet to come. Even as Earth rotated under the watchful eyes of the observers, humans continued their lives, building, learning, helping, debating, and dreaming. And somewhere in the hearts of every observer, a quiet thought lingered. This species, so small and imperfect, might one day change the course of interstellar history. For now, humanity's polite side shone brightly, a beacon of cooperation and hope. But as the observers knew, every bright flame faces winds that threaten to dim it. The question remained, how would humans respond when those winds arrived? And with that uncertainty, the Council waited, watching and learning, knowing that Earth held a story that was only beginning to unfold. After years of careful observation, the Council's eyes on Earth could no longer ignore subtle changes in human behavior. The polite, cooperative humans that had first fascinated the galaxy were beginning to show signs of stress. Nothing drastic yet, just small, almost imperceptible cracks in their social fabric, but the observers noticed. The first signs appeared in the cities, where the pressures of population growth, resource management, and rapid technological advancement collided. Streets once filled with courteous nods and smiles now carried sharper glances and hurried movements. In public spaces, strangers no longer stopped to assist one another as often. Simple gestures of politeness began to fade in moments of stress. Xylan, the observer who had spent years blending into human neighborhoods, was the first to report these changes. Standing at a crowded train station, he observed a minor incident. Two humans bumped into each other and began arguing loudly. A few years ago, such an event might have led only to a brief apology and a polite exchange. Now, voices were raised and impatience flared. "It is subtle, yet important," Xylan reported to the Council. Humans are beginning to respond to stress with sharper communication. Politeness is weakening in crowded, pressured environments. Miri, stationed in a different city, recorded similar patterns. She followed human workers in a corporate setting, noting the increasing frequency of heated arguments over deadlines, priorities, and resources. Humans still tried to resolve disputes without aggression, but their patience was wearing thin. In government chambers, the changes were even more apparent. Politicians debated loudly, often talking over one another, interrupting, and insisting their points were considered first. Civil servants, once calm and methodical, became frustrated under pressure, leading to mistakes and tension. The council called an emergency meeting to discuss these findings. Humans are losing the balance that first made them remarkable, Velnar said, his tentacle-like appendages trembling slightly in concern. They are still cooperative, but stress is revealing a more impatient, assertive side. This may affect their ability to interact peacefully with other species. Lauren's crystalline body shimmered as she spoke. It is not all negative. They are resourceful and adaptable. Even under stress, they find ways to solve problems creatively. Their politeness may be waning, but their resilience is remarkable. This may be an evolution, not a decline. The council was divided. Some members feared that humanity's impatience might escalate into reckless decisions, while others believed humans were entering a natural phase of growth and complexity. Back on Earth, the signs of change continued. In one coastal city, a young engineer named Alex worked tirelessly to repair a power grid damaged by a sudden storm. His co-workers were equally dedicated, yet the urgency of the situation led to tension. Voices were raised, and small disagreements flared into arguments. Alex felt frustration boil inside him, a feeling he had rarely experienced in similar situations. Yet, despite the rising tempers, no one acted aggressively or caused harm. Instead, they found ways to redirect their energy towards solutions. Xylan observed this closely. Even as they lose some patience, they channel their energy into problem-solving, he reported. Humans are learning to balance assertiveness with cooperation. This is unusual among species we have observed. Meanwhile, Miri focused on human interactions in schools and universities. She noticed that students, once naturally cooperative, were now prone to impatience and competitive behavior. Group projects often ended in frustration, debates became louder, and minor disagreements turned into hours of negotiation. Teachers worked harder to maintain harmony, but the pressure was apparent. Despite these changes, humans also displayed extraordinary acts of empathy. In one neighborhood, a family affected by a building fire received immediate help from neighbors, even those who had been strangers until that day. People donated food, provided temporary shelter, and organized repairs. Their kindness persisted, even as other parts of society grew tense. "It is fascinating," Miri said to the council. "Politeness may fade in some areas, but humans still possess an innate drive to help one another. This is what makes them unique." The first major incident of international attention occurred when a human delegation visited a neighboring star system. The delegation's purpose was to negotiate terms of trade and technology sharing with other interstellar civilizations. Humans were generally polite and diplomatic, but this delegation behaved differently. They arrived on the Council's observation outpost with urgency. Their leader, Ambassador Leona, spoke firmly, pressing for faster decisions than the Council expected. She interrupted meetings, questioned procedures, and demanded immediate attention. While her behavior shocked the attending aliens, it remained respectful. There was no aggression, only determination and impatience. "This is new," Velnar said, analyzing the report. "Humans are beginning to assert themselves more boldly. They are still polite, but their assertiveness has increased. They are demanding recognition for their progress." Lauren responded, "This may be a necessary stage in their evolution. They are growing fast, and their ambitions are outpacing their social norms. They may need to adapt to balance assertiveness with courtesy. Back on Earth, social unrest was beginning to take shape. Environmental issues, resource scarcity, and political disagreements created tension in communities. Protests were common, and debates became heated. Social media amplified disagreements, often turning minor disputes into public arguments. Humans were increasingly willing to speak their minds, even if it risked offending others. Yet the observers noted something remarkable. Humans also found ways to calm conflict. Community leaders, teachers, and volunteers mediated disputes. People organized cleanup drives, shared food with the needy, and worked together to restore order after natural disasters. Despite losing some politeness in everyday interactions, humans continued to prioritize cooperation when the stakes were high. In one city, a teacher named Mara faced a difficult situation. A fight broke out between students over a science project. Voices rose and tempers flared. Mara intervened, guiding the students to express their frustrations, negotiate fairly, and find compromise. By the end of the day, the students were not only cooperative again, but they had learned valuable lessons in communication, patience, and empathy. Xylan noted, "Humans are learning to navigate the tension between assertiveness and cooperation. They may lose politeness in minor conflicts, but they retain the ability to act ethically when it matters most." In another observation, Miri watched a hospital during a particularly busy week. Nurses, doctors, and staff faced relentless pressure from emergencies, shortages, and tired patients. Arguments erupted, mistakes were made, and tempers flared. Yet, even in these moments, humans adapted. Teams reorganized, prioritized critical tasks, and assisted one another without hesitation. Patients received care, and the hospital continued to function despite extreme stress. "Resilience under pressure is extraordinary," Miri reported. "They are not perfect, but they do not collapse. Their society has layers of cooperation that activate when needed." The council debated these findings with intensity. Some members worried that humans' impatience could escalate into aggression or recklessness. Others argued that humans' ability to maintain cooperation under stress was proof of their potential. Velnar spoke cautiously. "Politeness is diminishing in everyday life, yes, but humans are discovering the value of assertiveness. They can fight for their needs without harming others. This balance may define their success as a species." Lauren added, "We should continue observation. Humans are evolving quickly. Their social systems may experience turbulence, but their resilience and creativity may allow them to grow stronger through challenge." On Earth, small victories and failures played out in daily life. In factories, workers coordinated to meet production goals despite arguments and deadlines. In cities, neighbors organized food drives and disaster relief, even as political tensions flared on television and social media. Humans were imperfect, yet remarkable in their ability to adapt. In one rural town, a community faced severe flooding. Residents worked together to rescue trapped families, reinforce levees, and provide food and shelter. Arguments arose over strategy, but they were resolved through discussion, compromise, and shared decision-making. The town survived the disaster not because of perfection, but because humans had the capacity to act collectively and decisively under pressure. The observers' reports grew more complex. Humans were losing some of their polite habits in minor interactions, yet their overall capacity for cooperation, empathy, and problem-solving was strengthening. The council began to realize that politeness was only one measure of a civilization's potential. Perhaps politeness is not the ultimate sign of progress, Velnar reflected. Humans are learning to assert themselves while maintaining core cooperation. This is a rare and powerful combination. As the weeks passed, humans continued to evolve. In schools, workplaces, and homes, impatience grew in minor conflicts. Voices were raised more frequently, and small gestures of politeness became less common. Yet, in moments of crisis, Humans rose to the occasion. They helped strangers, resolved disputes creatively, and prioritized collective well-being over individual ego. The Council realized that humanity was entering a critical stage. Their polite side might continue to fade, but it was being replaced by something equally valuable: resilience, creativity, and moral strength. Humans were learning to navigate the tension between ambition and cooperation, assertiveness and empathy. The observers reported these findings back to the Council with growing excitement. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their unpredictability was not dangerous. It was inspiring. They were imperfect, yes, but their imperfections were balanced by extraordinary capacity for growth. Even as politeness waned in small interactions, the human's true nature shone in moments that truly mattered. When challenged, when pressured, when the stakes were high, humans acted with courage, compassion, and ingenuity. The Council realized that this was a species worth watching closely. Humans might lose some of their early charm, but they were gaining something greater: the ability to face adversity without losing their moral compass, to act boldly without harming others, and to evolve under pressure in ways few species could. And so, the observers remained on Earth, chronicling every subtle change, every small conflict, every act of kindness. They knew that humanity's polite side might vanish in everyday life, but its essence, the capacity to grow, cooperate, and persevere, would endure. The Council watched, intrigued, and hopeful. Humanity was changing, yes, but perhaps these changes were not a loss at all. Perhaps they were the first steps in a journey that would make humans one of the most remarkable species the galaxy had ever seen. The Council watched Earth with growing curiosity. Humanity had entered a phase that no observer had fully predicted. The polite and cooperative behaviors that once defined humans were slowly shifting. Small impatience had grown into louder arguments, sharper debates, and public protests. Yet beneath these changes, the humans' resilience and ingenuity continued to shine. It began with cities. The crowded streets, once bustling with cheerful greetings and polite exchanges, now hummed with tension. Commuters jostled for space, their voices rising in frustration. A man scolded a child for stepping into his path, while a bus driver honked impatiently at cars inching slowly ahead. Small incidents. Yet the observers recorded them carefully, understanding that such moments were indicators of a larger pattern. Xylan noted, "Politeness is being replaced by impatience in ordinary interactions. Humans react more openly to stress, but they are not yet violent. Their social adaptation is rapid, even under pressure." In government buildings, debates became heated. Politicians interrupted each other more often, raising their voices and insisting that their positions be acknowledged immediately. The Council observers, who had expected humans to navigate disagreements diplomatically, were surprised at the frequency and intensity of these confrontations. Yet, even in the midst of conflict, humans displayed remarkable problem-solving skills. A heated discussion about resource allocation in a growing city turned into a collaborative effort to develop sustainable solutions. Experts from multiple disciplines worked together, combining their knowledge to create plans that were both innovative and fair. Miri reported, "Humans are losing patience in minor interactions, yes, but in critical matters, their ability to cooperate, innovate, and find creative solutions is extraordinary. They are learning to balance assertiveness with collaboration." The first interstellar incident of note occurred when a group of human engineers arrived at a space station controlled by a coalition of alien species. Their goal was to assist in repairing a failing energy grid that powered multiple colonies. Humans were skilled, efficient, and determined, but their insistence on implementing solutions immediately surprised the aliens in charge. Ambassador Leona, leading the engineers, approached the Council of Alien Administrators. She spoke firmly, demanding the permission to prioritize repairs according to her team's plan. The aliens were taken aback. Humans had never before shown such direct assertiveness in interstellar dealings. Yet despite the blunt approach, Leona's tone remained respectful. She was not hostile. She was determined. "This is unprecedented," Velnar said during the Council's review. "Humans are beginning to assert their priorities more boldly. They are no longer solely polite negotiators. They demand recognition and action when they see a critical need." Lauren responded, "It is not negative. Their assertiveness is combined with competence and ethical behavior. They are navigating challenges in ways that few other species could manage. Their evolution is fascinating." Back on Earth, the social unrest was becoming more visible. Environmental concerns, scarcity of resources, and political disagreements sparked protests across major cities. Humans no longer waited for formal channels to express discontent. They gathered in streets, held rallies, and raised their voices. Social media amplified these events, spreading debates far and wide. Xylan observed a protest in a major city. People shouted slogans and carried banners, demanding solutions for water shortages. Arguments broke out between participants, yet the crowd as a whole remained peaceful. Volunteers distributed water and food to ensure safety, and organizers mediated disputes with patience and fairness. "It is remarkable," Xylan reported to the Council. "Humans are assertive in pursuit of justice and fairness. Even when tension rises, they prioritize collective welfare." In schools and universities, students' impatience was becoming more apparent. Group projects ended in heated arguments more often than before. Teachers had to intervene to guide students back toward compromise and collaboration. Yet these challenges also produced innovation. Creative solutions emerged from the friction, demonstrating that humans' assertiveness could coexist with productivity. Miri noted, "Conflict drives growth. Humans are learning to navigate disagreements without losing cooperation. This may explain their rapid social and technological advancement." In one particularly intense case, a local government faced a critical infrastructure failure. Communication networks had collapsed, and transportation systems were at a standstill. Citizens voiced frustration openly, and tempers flared. Yet community leaders, volunteers, and professionals coordinated rapidly to restore order. They prioritized safety, shared resources, and developed temporary solutions until full repair could occur. Xylan recorded, "Humans do not let impatience lead to chaos. They channel it into constructive action. Their moral and social structures allow them to respond effectively under pressure." Meanwhile, in interstellar communications, humans were proving equally impressive. Diplomatic negotiations had become more complex as humans asserted themselves boldly. On one star system council, human representatives refused to accept outdated agreements that limited trade and collaboration. They insisted on reviewing protocols, presenting evidence, and offering new solutions. Alien representatives, initially irritated by the humans' bluntness, eventually recognized the value of their proposals. "This is adaptability in action," Lauren said during the Council's discussion. "Humans assert themselves but do not abandon cooperation. They challenge conventions intelligently and respectfully. Their growth is unprecedented." The Council also began to notice patterns in human psychology. Humans seemed to respond strongly to challenges and adversity. When conditions were comfortable, politeness was the dominant behavior. When challenges arose, assertiveness emerged, often taking the place of ordinary courtesy. Yet even under stress, humans displayed ethical judgment, empathy, and creativity. Velnar summarized, "Politeness is fading in daily life, yes, but it is being replaced by a deeper sense of responsibility, courage, and ethical action. Humans are learning to act decisively without harming others. Their evolution is not a decline, it is an adaptation." Back on Earth, the media reported a new global initiative, humanity's first interstellar project to send a colony to a habitable planet. The announcement sparked excitement, debate, and concern. Citizens discussed the benefits and risks, often loudly and passionately. Social media became a battleground of ideas. Yet alongside the arguments were numerous acts of support, mentorship, and collaboration. In one community, volunteers gathered to educate children about the project, teaching them about science, ethics, and teamwork. In classrooms, students debated the challenges of space travel, exploring solutions with creativity and cooperation. Even as voices rose and disagreements flared, the educational process remained respectful and constructive. Miri observed, humans are using their impatience as a tool for growth. They question, debate, and assert their opinions, but they do so with a sense of responsibility. Their social structures allow them to manage tension while pursuing ambitious goals. In industry, similar patterns emerged. Factories and research labs faced increasing demands for efficiency, innovation, and output. Human workers experienced stress, arguments arose, and minor conflicts were common. Yet teams adapted quickly, reorganizing workflows, sharing knowledge, and mentoring new members. Productivity soared, despite, and sometimes because of, the tensions. Xylan reflected, humans do not collapse under pressure. They find ways to channel stress into progress. Their society thrives on adaptability, even as minor politeness diminishes. The Council began to understand that humanity's polite side had not vanished completely. It had transformed. Politeness in small daily interactions was giving way to assertiveness and urgency. But this change was balanced by remarkable resilience, cooperation under pressure, and ethical action. Humans were learning to act decisively without harming others, to innovate while collaborating, and to assert their rights without compromising fairness. In one notable event, a human-led relief operation coordinated aid after a massive earthquake on a distant colony planet. Humans negotiated with alien species for supplies, organized volunteers, and developed engineering solutions to rebuild infrastructure. Disagreements arose, tempers flared, and mistakes were made, but the humans persevered. The relief effort succeeded beyond expectations, earning admiration from alien collaborators. This is humanity at its core, Lauren said during the council meeting. They are assertive, yes, but they maintain ethics, cooperation, and empathy. They are unpredictable, but their unpredictability is constructive. The council began to realize that politeness alone was not the defining trait of a species' success. Humans were imperfect, but they were adaptable, resilient, and morally creative. Their assertiveness, combined with cooperation, allowed them to face challenges that might overwhelm other civilizations. Even in moments of tension and conflict, humans demonstrated an ability to grow stronger. Arguments were resolved through negotiation, disagreements sparked innovation, and impatience drove progress. The Council marveled at the balance humanity had begun to strike between assertiveness and ethical action. As Earth continued to rotate under the watchful eyes of the observers, humans pressed forward. They built, debated, explored, and innovated. They faced environmental challenges, social unrest, and technological hurdles, yet continued to act with courage, creativity, and collaboration. The Council recognized that humanity was entering a critical stage in its evolution. Politeness in ordinary life was diminishing, but it was being replaced by a deeper, more dynamic set of traits: resilience, innovation, ethical courage, and collective problem-solving. Humans were learning to assert themselves without abandoning cooperation, to face adversity without harming others, and to grow stronger under pressure. Velnar reflected, "The polite humans we first observed have evolved into something more powerful. They are no longer defined solely by courtesy. They are defined by resilience, adaptability, and moral creativity. This is a species worth watching closely." Lauren added, "Their unpredictability is their strength. They balance assertiveness with ethical action, impatience with cooperation, and ambition with responsibility. This may be what allows them to thrive where others might fail." On Earth, life continued in its imperfect but remarkable way. Crowds moved impatiently through streets, arguments erupted in workplaces and schools, and citizens voiced their opinions passionately. Yet amidst this tension, humans helped one another, solved problems creatively, and persevered through adversity. The observers understood that humanity's polite side had transformed rather than disappeared. Humans had learned a new kind of cooperation, one that incorporated assertiveness, urgency, and moral courage. This combination of traits was rare, even among the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. And so, the Council watched, fascinated and hopeful. Humanity was changing, yes, but these changes were not a loss. They were evolution in action. Politeness had given way to assertiveness, but resilience, empathy, and moral strength had grown stronger than ever. Humans were no longer merely polite. They were bold, inventive, and capable of extraordinary cooperation under pressure. The galaxy had never seen a species quite like them, and the Council knew that their story was only beginning. Humanity was entering its true test, and the Council waited to see what they would do next. Years had passed since the Council first sent observers to Earth. Humanity had grown rapidly, not just in numbers, but in ambition, technology, and influence. Cities had expanded into sprawling metropolises, new planets had been colonized, and humans had begun to explore parts of the galaxy that few other species had reached. Yet, as they advanced, their polite, cooperative nature, the trait that had first fascinated the Council, had undergone a remarkable transformation. Where once humans greeted strangers with smiles and calm, now impatience and assertiveness were common. Voices rose in debates, crowds protested loudly, and social media amplified every argument. Politeness had not disappeared entirely, but it was no longer the dominant trait. In its place had grown determination, boldness, and resilience. The Council observed closely, fascinated by the balance humanity had achieved. They were unpredictable, yes, but their unpredictability was constructive. Even as tensions escalated in human society, acts of cooperation, compassion, and ethical courage emerged in equal measure. Humans had learned to assert themselves without harming others, to face adversity while maintaining moral responsibility, and to innovate while still supporting each other. The first sign of humanity's full potential came in the form of a global initiative, the construction of the first interstellar research station fully managed by humans. The station was a marvel of engineering, spanning kilometers, capable of orbiting multiple planets, and providing support for human colonies and alien collaborators alike. It was not just a technological feat, it was a social one. Engineers, scientists, politicians, and volunteers from every corner of Earth and its colonies had worked together, overcoming disagreements, competing ideas, and resource challenges. Xylan observed the construction closely. "This is unlike anything we have seen," he reported to the Council. "Humans are combining assertiveness with collaboration, ambition with ethical responsibility. Their politeness may have faded in everyday life, but they act with cooperation when it truly matters." Miri agreed, adding, "They are capable of directing vast resources, managing complex logistics, and resolving conflicts creatively. Their ability to balance conflict and cooperation is extraordinary." The construction faced its challenges. Delays in materials, miscommunications, and technical problems sparked arguments. Workers raised voices, managers clashed, and deadlines were threatened. Yet the humans adapted. Teams reorganized, alternative plans were proposed, and solutions emerged from the very conflicts that threatened progress. On one critical day, a storm of cosmic energy threatened to destroy a partially completed section of the station. Engineers worked frantically, using emergency protocols and improvised techniques. Arguments erupted over the best method, but no one acted recklessly. Humans combined their knowledge, courage, and creativity to prevent disaster. When the storm passed, the station stood stronger than before. "This is their true nature," Lauren told the council. "Even when politeness diminishes in ordinary life, humans act decisively, ethically, and creatively when facing real challenges. Their unpredictability is constructive. It drives progress." Meanwhile, interstellar diplomacy had become a human strength. The same assertiveness that worried the council in the past now proved invaluable. Humans were no longer timid in negotiations. They demanded fairness, presented evidence, and proposed innovative solutions. Alien species initially surprised by humanity's boldness soon recognized their reliability. Humans were firm but ethical, assertive but cooperative. Ambassador Leona led a critical negotiation with multiple star systems over trade, technology exchange, and shared exploration projects. She navigated complex cultural differences, addressed misunderstandings, and solved disputes with creativity. When tensions arose, humans proposed solutions that honored both fairness and efficiency. The negotiations, once feared to fail, concluded successfully, earning respect from all parties. Velnar, reflecting on the reports, said, "Humans have transformed. Politeness in daily interactions may have waned, but they possess something far stronger: ethical courage, resilience, and the ability to act decisively under pressure. They can negotiate, create, and solve problems in ways few species can." Even on Earth, human society continued to evolve. Cities faced environmental challenges, resource shortages, and political disagreements. Crowds still protested, arguments still flared, and impatience was visible in everyday life. Yet humans had developed systems to manage these tensions: community councils, volunteer organizations, and emergency response teams. Conflicts were mediated, compromises were reached, and solutions were implemented. In one city, a massive flood threatened thousands. Residents, volunteers, and officials organized relief efforts. Disagreements arose over strategy, resource allocation, and priorities, yet cooperation prevailed. Humans rescued stranded families, provided shelter, and coordinated supplies. Their collective actions saved lives and rebuilt communities, demonstrating the strength of their moral and social systems. Miri recorded, "Even under extreme stress, humans act ethically and cooperatively. Their society is resilient because their cooperation is conditional on need and fairness." Politeness is not gone. It is transformed into constructive action. On the newly completed interstellar station, humans celebrated their achievement. Engineers, scientists, and volunteers shared stories of challenges overcome, solutions discovered, and disagreements resolved. Their achievements were not just technological, they were social. Humans had learned to turn conflict into collaboration, impatience into innovation, and assertiveness into ethical leadership. The council convened to discuss humanity's evolution. Observers presented their findings. Politeness in ordinary life had diminished, yes, but humans had gained moral courage, adaptability, and cooperation under pressure. Their assertiveness had become a tool for constructive action, not destruction. Their society was imperfect, yet capable of extraordinary accomplishment. Velnar spoke carefully. "Humans are no longer defined solely by politeness. That trait served them well in their early development. But it is their resilience, ethical courage, and adaptability that define them now. They are capable of achieving greatness, not in spite of their imperfections, but because of their ability to balance imperfection with cooperation." Lauren added, "We have underestimated them. They are bold, innovative, and morally strong. Their unpredictability, once a concern, is now their greatest asset. Humans act decisively and ethically when it matters most. This is a species to be celebrated. Meanwhile, humans continued to innovate. Colonies on distant planets thrived. Advanced research produced new technologies for energy, medicine, and transportation. Ethical frameworks ensured that progress did not harm the vulnerable or the environment. Humans had learned to balance ambition with responsibility, assertiveness with empathy, and innovation with cooperation. On Earth, teachers, scientists, engineers, and volunteers continued their work. Children learned about ethics, problem-solving, and teamwork. Communities faced challenges, yet found solutions through collective effort. Humans had developed social systems that allowed them to survive and thrive even as their polite demeanor in everyday life faded. In one remarkable demonstration, humans organized an interstellar emergency response exercise. A simulated disaster on a distant colony planet required coordination among multiple human teams and alien collaborators. Communications were rapid, decisions were made quickly, and resources were shared efficiently. Conflicts arose, but were resolved with negotiation and compromise. The exercise was successful beyond expectations, showing humans' ability to act decisively and ethically under pressure. Xylin observed with awe. They are learning to convert assertiveness into ethical action, impatience into solutions, and disagreement into collaboration. Humanity has reached a level of sophistication and resilience that few species achieve in millennia. Miri nodded. They are unpredictable, yes, but in a way that inspires confidence rather than fear. Their moral systems, combined with adaptability, make them a model for what a civilization can achieve when it embraces both ambition and responsibility. The Council finally reached a consensus. Humans had transformed from polite, cooperative observers into bold, inventive, and ethically courageous actors in the galaxy. Their society was not perfect, but its strengths were extraordinary. The Council understood that humanity's polite side had not vanished. It had evolved into a deeper capacity for moral action, resilience, and innovation. Velnar concluded, "We have watched humanity grow from a polite, curious species into one capable of shaping its destiny and contributing meaningfully to the galaxy. Politeness was only the beginning. What defines them now is courage, creativity, cooperation, and the ability to act decisively under pressure. This is the essence of their greatness." Lauren added, "Humans have proven that HFY, Humanity for the Galaxy, is not just about manners. It is about perseverance, moral integrity, innovation, and resilience. They are imperfect, yes, but they are extraordinary in ways few could have imagined." On Earth and its colonies, humans continued their journey. Cities thrived, research advanced, and exploration continued. Crowds still protested, arguments still flared, and impatience remained a part of daily life. But beneath the surface, humans were building a civilization capable of extraordinary achievement, guided by ethics, cooperation, and ingenuity. The interstellar station became a symbol of humanity's potential. It represented not just technical mastery, but social evolution. Humans had learned to act decisively while maintaining moral responsibility, to cooperate under pressure, and to innovate without sacrificing fairness. Their boldness, combined with ethical action, had become their defining strength. The Council observed quietly. No longer merely curious, they were inspired. Humanity had grown in ways that no species had predicted. They were unpredictable, yes, but their unpredictability was constructive. They were imperfect, yes, but their imperfections were balanced by resilience, creativity, and moral courage. And so, the Council concluded that humans were ready to take their place among the galaxy's most remarkable species. Politeness had served them well, but it was only one step in their evolution. Their true strength lay in their courage, adaptability, ethical judgment, and capacity for cooperation under pressure. Humanity had entered a new era, one in which assertiveness, ambition, and impatience were not flaws, but tools for growth. They had learned to act boldly while maintaining fairness, to innovate while preserving cooperation, and to navigate conflict while preserving moral integrity. The Council watched, inspired and hopeful, as humans prepared for the next stage of interstellar exploration. They had proven that a species could lose some of its early charm and politeness, yet gain far more in resilience, ingenuity, and moral greatness. Humanity was no longer simply polite, they were extraordinary. And the galaxy, for the first time, began to see what humans were truly capable of.